With us in the studio, the Herald's political writer-at-large, Catriona Stewart, and the journalist and podcaster, Assa Samaké-Roman. Thank you both so much for joining us this evening. So, Kat, John Swinney said this was a fresh start, a new chapter. Does it feel like a new beginning to you?
I mean, it feels new and it feels old at the same time. He was needled today at First Minister's questions about being an old face in a new role. And it really, I think, remains to be seen what he's going to do with this position. He is very much setting himself out as a unity candidate. He's going to bring together the different factions of the SNP, which is quite an interesting thing because the SNP have very much set at the forefront of Scottish political discourse over the past couple of years, issues about rights and divisive sort of identity politics issues that have split the public conversation, that have split the party. So he has a huge job ahead of him to bring everybody back together and set out exactly what he wants to do, how he's going to do it, and is he going to tack the party back towards the centre.
Yeah, and because they've dumped the Greens, it's a minority government, so it's going to be quite difficult for him to get stuff done, isn't it, Assa?
And I think he knows it, and everything that he's doing and kind of the consensus he's trying to bring in kind of appeasing politics. I think it's also because he realises he's in a minority position. He has to find a way to work with other parties, with people who are going to disagree with him on pretty fundamental things. But it's going to be a massive challenge. The general elections are not very much far ahead. We don't know when people in this country are going to vote, but we know that when an election is coming and people are getting in the mood for a campaign, it's not the most cooperative mood, let's say, in politics.
I mean, John Swinney was also talking about how he wanted a less polarised parliament. He wanted to reach out to the other parties, so kind of less argy-bargy in Hollywood. Do you think that's possible?
Well, he is known for his own argy-bargy in Hollywood, so to an extent he's going to have to...
admittedly, when he said that, didn't he?
Yes, I think he knows that he has to practice what he preaches. Yeah. And if you watch him carefully in the last few days when he's been partaking in television interviews, he's been very calm with his answers, very steady. He refuses to be drawn to get into any kind of back and forth. So he's presenting himself as this calm, stable elder statesman, and he's going to have to, really lean into that to do the sort of backroom deals that are going to be necessary now moving forward, because he is going to be in a sort of election footing from now. His policies are going to have to appeal to the electorate with a view to ballots being cast whenever we have a general election, and then he's got a 2-year run up to the Holyrood election, so he's almost going to be in a permanent campaign setting, and that's going to be really difficult for him to achieve. Whenever this general election is, goodness. But do you think people want more consensual politics? Do you think they want to see their politicians being better behaved, or do you think some people quite like the heated debate?
I think there's a part of us that's always going to be fascinated by the kind of clash, it's a spectacle.
I enjoy that sometimes. It just seems a bit more
but
interesting.
I think also because there's a lot of that in British politics and in Scottish politics, I think it's also very draining. I feel sometimes, personally, I don't necessarily want to watch First Minister's questions or Prime Minister's questions because it's a lot of shouting, and I'm watching it from television and the sound engineers are doing a fantastic job to make sure we can actually hear people in the chamber. But when you're actually there, I understand why people are put off from politics. So I think consensus is more about kind of the dignity that politicians should hold themselves when debating, and more confrontation about the ideas. Let's talk about what we really think and not have personal attacks, because it can be quite nasty and quite draining, and it just puts people off.
And do you think voters will warm to the idea of him being the First Minister?
I think he is being very clear that he's going to move things back towards the centre. Installing Kate Forbes as Deputy First Minister was really a nod towards a more centrist politics. And I think that is what voters want. He's talked about the bread and butter issues of focusing on child poverty, on the NHS, on education. These are the kind of things that people want, but the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. So particularly on child poverty, we'll have to see what he manages to actually achieve.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of politics. What about the Met Gala that we saw, that spectacle on Monday night?
What a segue, Rhoda.
And that's the fundraising event or ball, whatever you want to call it, for the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Now, was it Eddie Redmayne said it was a showcase of titans? I just thought it looked like a lot of people with massive egos. What did you make of it?
I mean, there certainly were very famous names at the Met Gala. I mean, every year it's just, one massive celebrity after the other with the most kind of outrageous outfits. But there were some really nice works of art, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, what about you? We're running out of time. I'd like to get your thoughts on it briefly, Kat.
I enjoy it as a spectacle, but I feel very sorry for the women because they look so uncomfortable, whereas the chaps are just going about in their casual trousers, velveteen suits, comfy shoes, pockets. It just makes me very envious.
I know they're kind of striding around and the women are getting carried up the stairs. Anyway, I didn't think it was very fair. But thank you both very much indeed for joining us this evening.